Meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Stockbridge to order on March 2nd. Thank you all for attending. Welcome. The first item, as usual, is approval of minutes. We've got 3 sets of minutes to approve tonight. One from our last full meeting, open meeting, done in characteristic detail by Jennifer, and then 2 from our 2 recent meetings with Jeff Lacey, the consultant, done in my highly condensed style. So are there any comments? Well, let me ask for a motion. We ought to go step minute by minute. On the February 16th minutes, can I have a motion to approve them?
So move.
Is there a second? That's a second from Gary. Any discussion, any corrections or issues? Hearing none. Jennifer, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Bill?
Aye.
Yeah, Bill. Gary?
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
Marie?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Nancy? You're muted, but I know she's okay. And Kate?
Aye.
Okay.
Nancy, unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. Hi.
Okay, thank you. The next are the minutes of this February 17th meeting. A motion to approve them.
Bill, where did they come out? Did you send them?
Jennifer
did.
sent them around.
You did. Okay.
Mhm.
For some reason, I have just not picked them up.
They're quite brief, Marie.
Okay.
I did not, I simply didn't do them in the same style as
That's fine.
Jennifer.
That's fine. I just didn't pick them up for some reason.
Yeah, so did I hear a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the February 17th minutes?
Yeah, I have a change I'd like to see with the February 17th minutes.
Sure. What?
Oh, no, it must be the, maybe it's the 16th. Did we do the 16th?
We did.
Oh, it's the 23rd. The 23rd is what I want to have a change.
Okay. So it's been moved, and did I hear, I think it was seconded to approve.
Christine seconded.
That's right.
Yep.
Thank you. Can you call the roll, please, Jennifer, on the
Bill.
February 17th?
Bill?
Aye.
Yep. Bill? Gary?
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
Marie?
I'm going to abstain because I didn't see them.
Christine?
Aye.
Okay. Christine?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. The next is the February 23rd meeting, the minutes of that meeting. Can I have a motion to approve?
I have a change. Oh,
Can we,
okay. Sorry.
let's let the
Okay.
Okay.
the motion go forward with moving the motion and seconding it, and then we can talk.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve? Did I hear somebody?
So moved.
Thank you, Nancy.
Second.
And a second from Christine. Now,
Mhm.
Kate, what's your concern?
Yeah, so you've got down there, when you're talking about Jeff's cheat sheet. you've
Yeah.
got, the illustration was a helpful aid to seeing how the bylaw could be of practical use. To me, that sounds like an opinion, and I would take that out.
Well, unfortunately, I said it. And
Oh, okay, if you said it, then by all means.
yeah, I did not invent that.
Okay. Then okay.
I take your point, but I'm afraid that since I said it, we can't take it out.
No, I didn't realize that you said it.
If somebody wants to later call me on it, I shouldn't have done it, but I did. So any other comments on these minutes, the February 23rd minutes? Jennifer, can you call the roll, please?
Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
and Marie, you're going to abstain
Yeah,
again?
please. Thank you. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yep, no, that's all right.
No problem. Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
Jen. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the special permit for 50 Lake Drive. Wayne, are you able to do the legalese?
Oh,
do you
boy.
do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
I have it here. I
Thank
brought it because I didn't know if you'd be here.
Thank you.
Notice is here, yeah. Notice is hereby given that the Stockbridge Planning Board, acting as a special permit granting authority, is scheduling a public hearing via remote meeting, see agenda to join, for 6:30 PM on Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021, to consider the application of Michael Landau, trustee at 50 Lake Drive, to construct a new house under sections 6.1 and 6.5 of the Stockbridge zoning bylaws. The complete application and plans are on file in the planning board office and the town offices. Okay,
Thank you. Mark or Jackson, who would like to lead this off?
Before they
Okay, Bill.
begin, I wasn't at the two planning board site visits, but I attended the one with the Conservation Commission on Friday.
Good. Okay. Glad to hear it.
Uh,
So
good
Jackson,
evening.
you're going to do this?
I believe Mark's gonna do the talking regarding this one, but if I could have permission to share my screen, I'll pull up the site plan for us to take a look at together.
Yes, please go ahead.
yes.
Thank you. Are you all able to see that?
Yes.
All right.
Bill, would you mind
Shit.
asking the Jennifer? you're
Where
all
did I
muted.
go?
Would you mind having the team introduce themselves?
Sure.
Shoot.
Mark, do you want to introduce the team? You may be muted, Mark. I can't tell.
He's not muted.
Or Jackson, do you want to introduce the team?
I'm sure I can get things started. My name is Jackson Alberti with Foresight Land Services, here to represent the applicants, the Landaus, for 50 Lake Drive. I believe Pam Sandler, the architect, is on, as well as Mark Volk from Foresight.
And I will speak up. This is Attorney Elizabeth Goodman, also here for Mr. Landau.
All right, Elizabeth, missed you.
Okay, welcome all. Mark, are you with us now? Mark may be having audio problems.
There, how about that?
Oh, there you are.
All right, so this is an
You go ahead.
application. This is an application from SGA Realty Trust. Michael Landau is the trustee of that. Michael and his wife own the property to the south of this, and they're proposing to tear this building down and build a new building for their 3 grown children and their grandchildren. The proposed project meets the purpose of the LPOD. The project proposes to maintain safe and healthful conditions through the construction and while it's constructed. We'll use erosion controls, prevent and control water pollution. And it proposes to replace shoreline vegetation to promote habitat and natural beauty. The property, there's an existing house on the property is proposed to be demoed. that the existing house is approximately 1,134 square feet, and there's a shed on the property. The new building is about 859 square feet larger, so not substantial, but larger. But the new house is 2,097 square feet with decks. That's 97% of the LPOD coverage. Both the existing house and the new house are 56 feet from the water, the mean high water. Vegetation coverage will be still above 75% at 89% of the lot. New house meets all zoning setbacks for zone R2, except for basically the LPOD 100 foot, which we are in front of you for. There's a new septic proposed. There's no alternative septic sites outside the LPOD. So there is a new septic for a 4-bedroom house in front of the house. It's replacing a substandard existing septic system. And the septic system really drives a lot of what's happening on this site because it requires about 4 feet of fill in the front of the parcel. And that lifts the house about 6 feet above what the existing house elevation is. That relates to the rest of the site with, that's why we have this as retaining walls around the house. There's no work proposed within 50 feet of the lake, except for the dock and the plantings that are proposed. All the plantings are native species. Plantings are proposed to replace existing trees to be cut. So there's approximately 18 trees to be cut, and there's proposed 18 trees to be replaced. There's also about 40 plantings of short shrubs along the shoreline and 20 in the location of the retaining wall on the lake side of the house. The plantings that are proposed to the south of the house may have to be adjusted because there is an easement for the lake community in that area. There is a dock that is proposed to be, there is existing dock, but we are proposing to permit through the state and the Conservation Commission, a new dock. Building is earth tones with a cedar, clapboard, and gray coloring scheme. And there is a proposed construction sequence for the house. They're proposing to do the foundation and cap the foundation this spring, and then hold off on construction through the summer, so not to disturb folks in the summertime, and then start up in the fall to complete it. So our scheduling is a little off because of that, but that should be a little bit more pleasing around that area in the summer. Erosion controls are proposed, and as I said, the construction sequence, there is stormwater infiltration proposed to offset the greater impervious area. That's my spiel. Take any questions?
Any questions from members of the board?
Yeah, I have a question, Mark. It's Kate.
Yep.
To clarify, and thank you for another really clear application. I really appreciate how easy it is to make my way through your applications, Mark. So, but to clarify, in looking at the property card, it looks to me like this is 0.4 acres. But it shows on the application where you've got the tables as 0.5 acres. So I was wondering about that. And then I was also wondering on the plan, the property lines are shown as approximate. And I'm wondering when a survey, when the last time a survey was done on this property in particular, with regards to the easement that you mentioned and that I also noticed on the, on a map when I looked at it, you know, how. that-
Right, right. So the acreage actually includes the easement because they own the easement. They just give easement for the rest of the landowners to walk across that. And I believe they do because there is another small dock on the easement. So acreage is that. The property lines around the property meet, except for there's a discrepancy in the deeds of the width of this property. They say 165, but it's not that. And so I think it's just an error in the deed. But we meet the definition through the deed description of the properties. We're just, you know, they're very accurate, but we didn't do a proper property survey of this for this application. So that's why we call that approximate, but they're surveyed property lines by pins that are out on the site and physical evidence.
Okay. And then another question I had was, in looking at our bylaw section 6.5.7, there's a section there that makes the comment that special permits should be, there should be shall be a review and comment by the select board. Has that happened with this request?
I believe it's that it is reviewed by the boards in the town, and the boards in the town have the opportunity to comment on it. It is similar to the Conservation Commission. If the boards don't comment on it, they're basically no comment. And the boards could ask for an extension of the meeting if they wanted one. But I don't know that anybody has asked for that. So they are, all the boards are usually provided with the plan and the submission. Their requirement to come back is not, they're not required. I believe that's the answer to that.
I had a question from the site visit. This is Nancy. Ron Broker had noticed that there's a fence along the water line where the shrubs are. And that's going to come out, right? You said.
That's
Jackson
being
said?
removed. Yes, that's being removed.
Okay.
Mark, I have a question, Wayne here. On the area where the septic system is, I know you're going to build that quite a bit. How do you account for that with the compensatory storage, being that comes up, what, 4 feet, you said?
Yeah, but it's not floodplain compensatory. That's just volume. That's just earth. So it's going to be grass covered. So it's not really displacing any stormwater qualities. I mean, it's mostly lawn there now. So we're not really displacing. It's the displacement for the infiltration is the impervious surface of the house structure.
And Mark, you've accounted for that. This is Attorney Goodman. You've accounted for that if you want
Yes,
to describe.
There's infiltration galleys behind the house. There's a terrace area, and we've included in the infiltration galleys behind the house. So those will compensate for the increase in the house size.
And you collect the water off the house.
Roof leaders, yep.
Yeah.
Collection comes off the house and goes into those. They're stored. This has a a volume that's close to 100-year storm. So that's a big storm. And it has an overflow that if it does top up, it does overflow. And it would run across the lawn just like pretty much all the precipitation does now.
Is there a path coming from the road to the back of the house? I can see it there, but I can't see it on, I have a map.
Not
Here.
really to the back of the house. We have a stone path to the front of the house. And then we have provided for grade to the south of the house where I show a septic tank and a pump chamber.
Yep.
There you go, Jackson, that area. So they can walk across lawn there. And then
Oh, okay.
we've also put stone stairways in on the retaining wall so they can access that way. They can also access off that terrace area in the back down the back side of the wall. There's a little bit of a ramp there.
Yeah, I always get confused, which is the front and which is the back. Is it the lakeside is the front side and the road is the front side? I don't know.
I think your
Just
front
call
side,
it road and lake.
Okay.
front side is typically facing the road.
Okay. Sorry.
If I could just add another important feature to me of this design when comparing the requirements of your zoning district to this plan is that the Mark has significantly located the building outside, further from the lake than the existing building was. So if you look at the footprint of the existing building, there was more of it towards the lake than this building.
The
So
deck.
he's improved the existing situation, or maybe Pam, you designed that, sorry.
Right, yeah.
Improvement over the existing condition. And also the retaining walls, which really add to the level areas on the site where you can walk and use them, and then you avoid any kind of erosion and other situations with the steep grade, which is another concern of your lake and pond overlay district. So they've made a lot of effort and thought has been put into these plans to make sure that it is in compliance.
I have a question about the amount of fill. You're going to dig out the soil under the present house, as I understand it.
Who's speaking, please?
Pardon?
That's
Who's speaking, please?
Christine.
Kristen.
Sorry, okay, you didn't introduce yourself. Thank you.
I have a question about the amount of fill that is going to be required to bring the project up to what you're showing. And the fact that you are going to use the soil under the existing house is interesting, but are you going to have to bring in additional soil? And will that soil, because it could have different characteristics, have any impact on your drainage calculation?
I would say no. Most of the soil that's going to be brought into this site is going to be for the septic system. That's a specified sand that is brought in for that. And then everything else should be clean, sandy loam material. The house actually has a slab in the front of the building because we have to maintain a 20-foot setback to the septic system. So there is a slab in the front of the building, and then the back, the lake side has excavation, which is going to be pretty close to what we are required in the terrace area in the back. So if we have to, we can specify, that it's a sandy loam, that the sandy loam was what was in the test pits in the front of the parcel. So it should be the same type of soils as what we're calling for in the drainage calculations, which is a sandy loam.
I think that's important because when you're bringing in fill, if it's not tested, and up to the specifications, there can be some problems. And this is a very sensitive site, and I think we need to make sure that we're doing everything possible to protect it. I also have a question on the dock. The planning board should also be included in those plans. And I know you said the Conservation Commission would receive them, but I also think that the planning board should have an opportunity to comment on them. Following up on what Kate said about the reports from different boards and commissions, the planning board also has the opportunity to address the select board with our report if we find anything that deals with their issues. And I don't know if we've received the application that is specific for the non-conforming structure that I assume the Board of Selectmen are going to be reviewing. And there are time limits. So I'm a little concerned about the 35 days on that, and I hope it's looked into because there could be some comments from our board if we have a chance to review it. And I also am curious about the trees that are going to be removed. Of course, we were out there last week in the winter. It's hard to determine the health of any of the trees. Can you tell me the health of the trees that you're removing and what measures you are taking to protect the trees that are remaining, as well as any activities you are taking to ensure the long-term health of the existing trees?
So to go through your list there,
Sorry.
the dock is open to comment by any boards in town through the Chapter 91 simplified dock process. So that's a process that all the boards in town are getting are notified. It's also notified in the Berkshire Eagle. That's a mandated legal advertisement that has to be done on that. See if I can remember all your comments there. The trees, there is a lot of ash out there that is evident. It has the ash borer, so a lot of those are going to die. They're not in great health as I saw them out there. There is other trees that are some maples and birch on the perimeters of this that are healthy trees. Most of the trees to be removed are in the septic system area, and we just have to remove those. They're just can't build a septic system with them. We are proposing fairly substantial trees for a planting plan, 1.5 caliper red maples, which is a native species, river birch of 6 to 10 foot high, and eastern white pine, 4 to 8 foot size. So we are proposing to do substantial plantings in this. As far as the selectmen, I do not believe this project has to go in front of the selectmen. It still needs to go through the Conservation Commission because somebody messed up with posting a meeting. So hopefully that will close out next week. There's no reason why they should not issue an order of conditions on this. We're not doing anything within 50 feet of the lake. We have erosion controls. I think some of the comments from the Conservation Commission in their meeting have been addressed with the plantings that have been done. Does that address, I think, every thing you had?
And you're not doing construction during the summer. When you're doing your tree plantings, how are you going to determine when the best time is to do the planting so the trees have the best success of survival? And what methods are you looking at to protect the remaining trees that are not going to be impacted.
So
But-
the remaining trees are protected by the erosion controls that are proposed. So everything within the erosion controls is, most all the trees in that area are proposed to be cut. So the erosion controls act as a barrier and as erosion control through the construction process. I would encourage that the plantings that are done on this site are done after all the site work basically is done. So if this is constructed with the foundation and then capped in the spring, it'll have time to reestablish a grass all the way around this. But I would
Now,
recommend that they do not plant the trees and substantial amount of the shrubs until next fall, when they're going to be doing the framing on the house. And after that, so that may be that they plant in 2022. When construction is done, because otherwise there'll still be activity out there and we don't want to damage any trees that we're planting. They're not cheap. None of this landscaping is cheap and we want best survival.
Thank you.
so, Christine, are you done?
Yes, Kate, I'm sorry.
So Mark, it doesn't look to me from the drawing that Jackson sent today, like the siding is really earth tones. It looks fairly light in color. Thank you. In places, those panels and so on. And, given that this is a environmentally sensitive area, this is definitely significantly more of an impact than what has been there. Would your client be willing to change the facade to be more natural in color and to blend in more with the surroundings?
Kate, after our meeting the last time, I heard you very loudly. We added a lot more clapboards to the house. The entire bottom of the house is all clapboards. The top half is mostly clapboards, very earth tony. The window trim color is earth tony. And it is not shown correctly here. I'm sorry, these drawings don't do the design justice in terms of, so all the trim will be wood also. It's not shown as brown, the fascias, all that will be earth tony. We will consider
Pam,
looking at the concrete
Pam,
panels.
Pam,
Yes.
excuse me. So those light colored panels, just so I understand, that show now, those will be a darker color or?
If basically right now, we really feel it is quite subtle. It is a grayish brownish color, which does make it more of an earth tony natural look. There'll be a lot of stone at the bottom. This is not going to be in your face. I think the other problem with drawings like this is they're very flat. These drawings are three-dimensional. You'll never see it like this. It will really blend in more. There'll be trees everywhere and really will not be offensive to the bowl.
Okay, well, another thing that I'd ask you to consider is the impact of all that plate glass on bird life. I mean, as I mentioned, that area is really quite ecologically interesting. There's blue heron back there. I've seen eagles. It's sort of a special area, and I'm wondering if that's something that you and your client would consider taking into consideration.
To be honest with you, I would say no. It's no more glass than a lot of houses I'm on Stockbridge Bowl. Some have entire spandrels. The entire place, it's set back from the water. It's not high up. I really think we'll be fine, Kate.
That has nothing to do with it. It really has to do with the amount of unbroken plate glass. And I'll rest my case there, but
okay.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to come in again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I lost my Wi-Fi at the tail end of my question there to Mark, and I never did hear his answer. If I could just ask that again, Mark, quickly about the, even though that, or that 4-foot rise with the fill, even though that's in the LPOD, that doesn't need to be accounted for?
It's because the only reason you would, it's accounted for in the overall drainage calculations. But we're going from existing condition of basically most of that area is lawn and trees right now. And it's going to be a septic system, so it's got to be cleared of the existing trees that are there. So it's going from a treed situation, tree lawn area, which is still lawn underneath the trees that are there, to a lawn situation. So we're really not creating any more change in the drainage calculations with that. It's fairly minor.
Okay, thank you. I got cut off there. I just never did hear your answer.
It's a good question, Wayne, and I was just curious about the slope there, Mark. What is, or is there anything on this project that is greater than the 20% slope, including in the septic area?
Not 20%. On the south, we're real close to that. That is about 20% in there. But you need to have, because we've got wall wrapping around this whole property, the front is going to be flat, basically, from the road to the house. Because that right now you walk down to that, but when you make this septic system, you're going to be basically flat going to the house. And then when you go out the back of the house, because there is a grade change, we have a terrace that's all about a 4%, so very flat. And then all the existing lawn that's from the stone wall to Stockbridge Bowl is about 2 or 3%. So the only place we have fairly a grade is where the septic tank and the pump chamber are. And we need a location that we can get a mower up onto this plateau area and just get around the house comfortably. So that's how we obtain grade there. That's about a 5-to-1 slope. There might be a 4-to-1 spot there, which would be a 25% slope, but it's a very short and small area. And then it has an area down below it that's less than a 5% grade, so it's fairly flat.
Well, we do have that 20% limit in slope. So when you say it's very,
You have it, and if we provide erosion controls, you can have a 20%. I know we just did one across the lake that was, the existing grade was 25%, so we couldn't do anything about that. But this one, you'd be filling a substantial amount of land here if you tried to get it less than a 20% slope. So we are providing erosion controls, and I believe the language is that steeper slopes can be allowed with erosion controls. And it's a fairly small area.
what size is the area? I mean, I can't remember the wording off the top of my head, but what size is the area?
It's like 15 feet wide and 25 feet long. I mean, it's not very much. I mean, it's where all those the proposed contours are, where to the south of the house. That's the limit.
Okay, and then did you already cover the plantings on the lake side of the house? I mean, I'd love to see some.
We did a substantial amount of native planting, so that at the stone wall behind the house, those are mountain laurels and viburnum. What do I got in there, Jackson?
Looks like you have common juniper.
Yeah, common juniper. And then down by the lake shore, there's a band of, that's all native species there. And That's about 40 plants. That's a substantial amount of plantings. We're removing the geese fencing, and the plantings actually work to a deterrent to the geese because they don't want to. There is a band there about 3 or 4 feet wide already, and that's red osier dogwood and spirea already. And we're looking to put in a substantial amount of other native species in there. They're all short because we don't want to block the view to the lake, but it would still do the same function as the existing and blends into the existing plantings that are there.
Okay, what about the invasive species sort of over on the north side area? Is there any plan to address that area?
We have not addressed any invasive species on the property.
Is that something your client would consider doing?
If it's buckthorn and honeysuckle, we can discuss it with them and see if he'll do that while they're doing the plantings.
Okay. And I did find the wording, and its grading shall not result in the creation of slopes greater than 20% within the LPOD.
I think there's another section that allows it with erosion controls done. You can't, I mean, you can't do, there's lots of properties around the lake that you just wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, I realize there's properties where the existing grade is greater than 20%, but I guess we have a different read on it.
Are there other questions or?
I have a couple of questions. I don't think you told us if you're going to do anything to protect or to enhance for the long term the trees that are on the site. Well, maybe stressed. I know we talked about the trees that we're planting, but I think that it would be good to have a plan to ensure that the trees remain healthy that are there. And the front of this site, it looks to me like there's an area between the house and the road, but I'm wondering where the parking is for the vehicles for the activities that would be occurring in this house, and it's there. And so people will park their cars and then walk over the septic system to the main house. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's exactly what they do right now. There's a parking area there that they park out in that area. And there's a stone walkway that goes to the front of the house, pretty much exactly how we show it. And all the trees that are there, I tried to explain that we are putting erosion controls up. That's protecting pretty much all the trees that are to be remaining. So the erosion controls are in place as a limit of work.
I'm concerned about like the future of those trees, because I know we're doing some work with an arborist on our trees here with feeding on a regular schedule to enhance them, because they are trees that are susceptible to ongoing problems and we don't want to lose them. And so I guess that's something that is not in your plans at this point anyway, from what I'm hearing.
I would have to say, Christine, that will be the responsibility of the homeowner. And these people have owned these two houses for over 30 years. They have taken amazing care of the trees, the plantings and everything. And I am sure that they will continue to do so. Feed the trees. They don't want dead trees on their property. So, and they will, be by your bylaws, no pesticides, things like that, to make sure that they survive.
And how many parking spaces are you going to be able to put in that area where the parking is?
There's really room for one. They could fit probably two in there. There, the property owner, Michael Landau, has the property just to the south of this, so they can park in that area too, because this is all sort of a family compound here.
But they're going to be maintained as separate lots, so at some point in the future, that could become a problem if there's only 2 parking spaces for a rather large home.
It's the existing condition that they have. That's what they're going to use.
And snow removal for the parking area is going to be involved. What kind of procedure, and how are you going to deal with ice, all those winter conditions?
The road right now is I'm assuming plowed by the association, which is just part of the building to the south, which is Landau. That gets plowed out correctly. When we did the site visit, the area was plowed out. If I recall, I don't recall that there was any sand on that. So it's going to be plowed. There's room enough to plow snow and get it out of the parking areas. So it's going to be a plowed site.
And it won't go on the septic system? I mean, I'm not for sure you can.
We can't.
How?
There's a retaining wall, so they can't push it up over the retaining wall.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments of Mark or the others?
I make a motion, we accept this application.
I think, do we not have to close? the
Gotta
public
close
hearing?
it.
Actually, I have a question, if it's okay. This is Patrick White.
I think just Patrick, just to be legalistic, don't we have to close the meeting first and then take public comments, or can we take them now?
No, you can take public comments now.
Patrick, go ahead.
I have 3 questions. The first is I just want to point out that there's a trunk injection you can do on the still healthy ash trees called a imidacloprid that will save them from the ash borer. And I just want to encourage applicants, obviously this isn't a regulatory issue, but it's just a point that, if you've got large, healthy, full-grown ash trees that haven't been attacked yet, you can save them. So that was just my first thing. The second question I have is this: the easement, which is the 22-foot area. Looking at the GIS map, it looks like, at least on the GIS map, that is part of the entire Lake Drive system that has a parcel number of like 207-041 and 6 zeros, which is a different parcel as this. Now, not a lawyer, so I'm not suggesting that the easement isn't valid in terms of calculating this, but someone mentioned there was a dock associated at the end of that 22-foot wide easement. And if you're using the 0.1 acre of the easement to justify the 0.5 acre calculation that justifies the size of the house, I don't think it's reasonable necessarily to then request 2 docks on the same property, because there's already a dock on the easement, is my understanding.
DEP does not have any requirements of how many docks you want to put on your property. Stockbridge Bowl, the association may. The easement is described in the deed to this property. So it is part of this property. It is not part of the association. So it is part of this property. And then as far as the dock, their dock, it's not part of the Landau's proposal. So if they want to have that dock legality wise, it's a complicated thing, because you have to, state dock needs to be 25 feet off of the property line side yard. So it's not that you can't do it. You have to go through DEP. You're gonna have to jump through some hoops with them, but they could do it. As there is lots of docks around Patrick,
We
Stockbridge
don't
Bay,
allow,
Patrick.
it was just my
you know,
understanding, we only allowed one dock per property, and you're using this as one property to justify the size of the house, and yet you're requesting a second dock on the property. That's all
I'm
I'm
not,
saying.
we are not requesting a second dock on the property. This proposal is one dock.
One dock.
So there's not a dock at the parcel just south of it that you have the easement?
It's not our easement. It is the lake. It's the association's easement, and it's their dock, and it's existing.
Okay.
There is an existing dock there now. We're removing that and replacing it with this dock.
Yeah, his question is there's a small dock to the
Right,
south.
I understand that, but this one exists, so it's pre-existing, non-conform, whatever, it's there.
Yeah.
We just have had problems with other, not in this property, but with folks just putting multiple docks on properties in this area. And a number of the other homeowners in this area have complained about it. So that's why I bring it up, not to be a jerk.
All right. Our proposal is one dock, and it'll be permitted properly through the state.
Any other questions from anybody else? Hearing none, I think we can have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
I heard a second. I didn't know who it
Second.
was.
Marie.
Nancy. Any discussion about closing the public hearing? Okay, Jennifer, would you please call the roll?
Oh, yes. Bill,
Aye.
Gary, Wayne,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Marie,
aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Christine. Christine? Okay,
Aye.
okay.
Okay. Are there any other comments, or are we ready to proceed to consider approving this special permit?
I make a motion, we accept this special permit application.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Is this the point at which we specify or stipulate that the required findings under 6.3.6 have been satisfied?
Yep.
Yes,
And
please.
do I need to enumerate them, or can I simply make that referral?
I think you can just make the referral. Bill,
I'm sorry?
I think you need to have a vote.
I'm just gonna do the roll call, Bill.
Okay, before
Okay.
we stipulate to satisfying these findings? Is that the proper
Do
order?
it first.
Yeah, you don't
I-
know what the vote is.
Maybe the public
Well, if you
needs
don't-
to
if
know
you
what
don't
the.
like- I suppose if you don't like the stipulation of the required findings, you can vote no.
Okay,
Or abstain. It just seems to me that we're voting to approve a special permit, and it seems to me we should include a reference
Findings.
before we vote to the fact that the required findings have been satisfied. Or,
Ask
Sounds
Attorney
good.
Goodman, she'll know.
Ask who?
Attorney Goodman.
Ms. Goodman.
just
is
go
that
ahead
correct?
and do it.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to stipulate for the record that the required findings under 6.3.6 have been satisfied. And that the required findings under the LPOD under 6.5.6 have been satisfied.
I would like to
Okay.
add a condition to the findings, please.
Yes? Go ahead.
I would like to condition any fill that is brought onto the site meet the same standards as the fill that is presently there to ensure the drainage calculations continue to be as presented to us this evening.
I understand that, Christine, but wasn't it stated by Mark that there's going to be different fill around the septic?
Yes, and he said that what I heard, and I think it's important, and they seem to agree to it, that the fill that they brought in for the septic system would match that criteria, but the other fill that they're going to bring in needs to match the soil profile that they have used for their special permit application.
Okay,
Fine. That's fine, Bill.
okay. So that's a condition. We'll add that. So can I have a motion to approve this special permit?
We got it.
We already did that.
Wayne, yep. Wayne and Nancy seconded. So I'll just call the roll.
Okay, thank you. I forgot we had a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Yep. Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Kate,
Nay, and I'd like to, for the record, express my reasons for voting against this. I certainly recognize the efforts that have been made both by Pam and in terms of the addressing the waterfront, removing the fence and the landscape. But I'm also concerned about the increased footprint, preserving habitat, the amount of glass, and those are referencing the purpose of the LPOD bylaw. Those are my reasons for not approving this project. I'd like the record, the minutes, Jennifer, to reflect that, please.
I've got most of it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jennifer, do you need her to repeat it?
I think it was to, because of the increased footprint, to preserve habitat and take care of the birds. I think that was it.
It's due to the increased footprint. I'm concerned
Got
about
that.
the amount of glass and
Yep.
the impact of the property on the visual landscape and as well as habitat.
Okay, visual landscape. Thank you. Okay, we'll continue. Nancy,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Christine.
Nay, I agree.
Oh,
I agree with Kate regarding the provisions of the LPOD. I think that having a site that demands so much fill really is not in keeping with the requirements that the building structure and land use activities meet all the applicable and site plan requirements set forth in section 6.3 and 6.5.8. My concern is the trees, also that I just am having some difficulty with. So at this point, my vote is no.
okay, that's it.
So what was the result, Jennifer?
5-2, 5-2.
Okay, so the
So
special
it
permit,
passes.
the planning board approves the special permit. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Pam. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Somebody's happy.
Thank you.
Dandy. Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. The next item is reopening the public hearing on 82 Interlaken. Um, I
I'll
see.
read that one too.
Thank you.
you.
Notice is hereby given that the Stockbridge Planning Board, acting as a special permit granting authority, is scheduling a public hearing via remote meeting with agenda to join for 6:30 PM on Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021, to consider the application of David Browse at 82 Interlaken Road to construct a single-family dwelling with an accessory structure under section 6.5 of the Stockbridge zoning bylaws. A complete application and plans are on file in the planning board office in the town offices. Okay?
Thank you. I guess Brent, do you want to lead off again?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for your time this evening. Again, Brent White from White Engineering on behalf of the applicant. And joining us this evening is one of the applicants, David Browse from 82 Interlaken LLC, their attorney, Lori Robbins, and architect Rich Holben, as well as Shannon Bloomsmith from my office, White Engineering. Since the last hearing, Mr. Chairman, before we proceed, I would ask that the board actually vote to accept the amended plans that were submitted for the record, just so that is the basis for our discussion this evening, please.
I
I have a question about this, Bill. Can
Do we
I
have to do that? Well, go ahead, Kate. Hold on, Brent, just a sec.
Okay.
So, Bill, in terms of the plans that we received, we now have two sets, but it's not really clear to me how we are going to, I mean, the first set has a narrative and there's information there. And then the second set that I received was just large maps and then a cover letter, as well as a letter from Tom Ingersoll. And then we received over email additional information, but as I reviewed this, I was struggling to reconcile the two sets of information that we received. So I'll just put that comment out there. You know, I think potentially it could become a problem. We did have a situation years ago across the lake where we had two sets of plans and it became a problem, suffice it to say. So.
Well, I think I don't know whether we need to refer this to town council or not. That sounds like maybe.
Well, the plans submitted are the plans of record. So what the plans that we're asking for this evening, we're asking to be the plan of record to supersede the original plan. And my intention is to describe the differences in those plans for the board this evening, as they were specifically prepared to address comments raised during the last discussion. So I believe that's the intention of tonight's hearing, to explain those differences for the board, please.
So to address Kate's concern, Brent, does it make sense for you to stipulate that you're withdrawing the earlier application?
No, it does not. It asks that we are substituting White Engineering drawing 20-08-05B with a revision date of February 24th, 2021 to serve as the plan of record for the Lake and Pond Overlay District Special Permit for 82 Interlaken LLC, please.
So it's just the drawings.
Well, the drawings, the letter that describes the changes that were made in the drawings, as well as the report from Mr. Ingersoll, which was meant to specifically address some concerns about the health of the tree, as well as the invasive species removal that was planned for the Lake and Pond Overlay District.
And Kate, your concern is that there's no narrative.
Well, I just, look, I'm not trying to be difficult, Bill, but I just found the plans extraordinarily difficult to review. And I tried to, figure out how they would jibe with what we received before. And
well, they don't. I
They
mean,
don't.
it's a change. Lori, do you have some?
Yes, I would like to propose that Brent give his narrative to describe why the plans are changing as a result of the concerns of the planning board. They can hear the narrative. And in the event they do approve this plan, they can approve this plan and specify which plan they're approving. And that can be part of the decision. And it would be clear then, when you make a decision, which plans you're approving. So I'd like Brent to be able to present the plans. And at some point, if your board votes to approve, votes to agree to supplement the recently filed plans to address the concerns of the planning board, they can do so. So I would suggest that he give his presentation so it will be better understood what plans are being submitted.
I think that makes sense.
Can I ask Laurie then, how do we write a decision? Because we're going to have, I can't imagine what Jennifer's minutes have to look like
Oh,
because.
this would be easy. I'll tell you how it's done. What's submitted, were you to agree to the revised, you can always revise, you can always modify your plan to make it smaller at a public hearing. You just can never make them bigger. So specifically, your decision would refer to the plan submitted by White Engineering dated, no, these are dated revised February 24th, 2021. It's entitled Reduction in Proposed House Footprint. So that's how you would refer to them. What's been filed with the town clerk and with the planning board are site plans that would then go to the building inspector. And so long as you specifically refer to those plans, sheet number 1 of 8, White Engineering, overall proposed site plan, plan 4, revised February 24th. That's what gets submitted to the building inspector for him to approve plans for the construction. So that would be the how you address this.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
It's a fairly straightforward administrative process.
yeah, to me, this sounds like the way to go.
I'm fine with going forward, Bill.
Okay, so Brent, why don't you get started, please?
Great. Well, thank you. So again, I'm happy we're discussing revised plans, and there's a number of revisions that I would just like to call your attention that really speaks to concerns raised. The first is the proposed house, both with the site plans as well as the architectural plans that were submitted. We have reduced the habitable space in the house by 618 square feet. We heard a number of concerns about the size of the house, so the applicants worked closely with Mr. Holben to revise the floor plans to consolidate that as much as possible. One of the other things that we've done to reduce our coverage within the Lake and Pond Overlay District was to remove the swimming pool, the terrace, and the Ready Rock retaining wall completely outside of the Lake and Pond Overlay Districts, and we have omitted any use of a Ready Rock wall on the property, period. Another matter that was raised as a concern by one of our abutters was with respect to the proposed floating dock. There were some questions raised about that, and in an effort to move this forward, we have eliminated the floating dock from this proposal. To summarize the proposed plans and the square footages that would be included in your findings, the proposal before you this evening, based upon our February 24th plans, those result in a total lot coverage of 3.42%, of which the bylaw calls for a 10% maximum allowable. Our coverage within the Lake and Pond Overlay District is 10.66%, with a 15% maximum allowable. And for your reference, the plans that were originally submitted with the Lake and Pond Overlay District application called for a Lake and Pond Overlay District coverage of 13.2%. So greater than a 2% reduction in our overall Lake and Pond Overlay District coverage. And then finally, with respect to our Florida area ratio, that is a total of 3.96%, and the original application called for 4.18%. So everything that we've submitted to you this evening is a reduction from the original application, as well as from removed items of concern related to the pool, the retaining wall, etc., as well as ensuring that the guest house is completely located outside of the Lake and Pond Overlay District, and the coverages I just read reflect that. One of the other greater concerns that we heard during our February 2nd hearing was with respect to the health and condition of the trees. I had spoken into the record, and we had made reference in our original written application, consulting with Tom Ingersoll, a certified arborist, to review the health of the existing trees as well as the invasive species that exist on the property. And we have asked him and has submitted for your record an updated report that identifies clearly the number of conditions that have affected the trees that have rendered them unhealthy and suitable for removal. And I also note that, again, this application calls for a 2-to-1 tree replacement ratio. The product before you earlier this evening had a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'll just like to note that for the record. And we've also retained the same rain garden that has been proposed along the waterfront, even though we have reduced the impervious areas and given even more redundancy to that system, we did not feel it appropriate to reduce the size in that. And I really hope these plans, both the site plans, the architectural plans, and the information submitted have been a good faith effort on behalf of the applicant to address the concerns of the board, and hope that you'll find favorably on the application this evening.
Brent, one thing you didn't mention is the salt water in the swimming pool. You mentioned the relocation. Is it still proposed to be salt water? And if it is, does the relocation of the pool represent mitigation of any overflow of salt water onto the property?
Sure. So first off, I would say I'll take your the second part of your question first, and the fact that, yes, we feel moving the pool greater than 150 feet away from the bowl does improve the overall condition on the site. We spent a great deal of time actually researching the ionization technology that had been shared as an alternative to saltwater pools. And our research has found that while from an academic standpoint, it is possible to achieve disinfection through that method, one of the things that we found is that it actually becomes more problematic and actually requires a number of times for the pool to be shocked, which actually calls for a higher concentration of chlorine to be periodically put into the pool to disinfect that. So while we did come across some academic information that would suggest there are alternative ionization technologies that would be better than salt water, it's our view, frankly, that we're better to stick with the true tried and true application that is a salt water that is significantly healthier and better than a chlorine pool, but also doesn't rely upon I would still deem it as a untested technology, or one I'm certainly not comfortable recommending my client base his design off of, only to have operational concerns or a situation where, frankly, we're introducing a higher dose of chlorine into that water than if we had just stuck with the salt water technology, which is tried, it's true, it's known to local pool contractors as well as pool maintenance vendors throughout Berkshire County. So
okay,
that's our position on the saltwater pool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the planning board?
Yeah, I have a question about the, are you still planning on blasting?
We do intend to use blasting as part of our process here, but I think it got lost in our initial discussion is based upon the house placement into the hillside itself, there's actually, I won't say very little, but there's fairly minimal removal of material to actually construct the foundation of the house itself. So, and that really goes to the design of the house, really trying to work with the landscape. To be clear, we do intend to use that, so there's no question that we're not asking for permission to do that. But I think the quantity of blasting that would be required is actually fairly minimal for the site, based upon how we've tried to arrange the house to work with the landscape versus trying to push the house even further into the hillside itself.
When you say the quantity of blasting, what is that?
What that means is initially when there was discussions of moving the house and moving the house out of the LPOD, in order to do that, we would have actually had to move the house physically into the hillside. In this case here, we're essentially setting the house in front of the major basin. We'll have a small amount of cut and fill in the area of the driveway, but we're not having to blast out in order to create this house itself. And I think that maybe was lost in the original discussion here. And I appreciate the question to clarify that this is not a major mining effort in order to be able to construct the foundation as we proposed it.
So how many times are you going to be blasting?
That's something I would defer to the general contractor. Admittedly, the construction documents have not been prepared, and that would be determined at a later date. I don't know that I would feel comfortable making a commitment onto the number of times that would be done. To a certain degree, I would imagine the level of success would determine the number of times it needs to be done. But I can assure you, based on the disruption to the property and the neighborhood, the minimum amount of blasting would be done in order to successfully construct the house.
Okay, and then in terms of salt water, do you know how that affects habitat?
I'm sorry, Kate, could you speak a little louder, please?
Yeah. How does salt water, do you know how salt water affects habitat?
Well, we do know that based upon the net result pH of a saltwater pool, it is not a higher concentration of salt that has a detrimental impact. I'm speaking with a number of landscape architects. They actually designed some of their overflow from pools to go directly to best management practices such as rain gardens. So it's our view that the concentration of the salt water itself is no more harmful than water people are willing to submerge their body in to swim. So in our view, it's always been our position that the saltwater pool does not represent a detrimental impact on the proposed vegetation or the habitat.
Brent, do you want to present on your screen the,
Before you go any farther, Bill, I meant to ask, could you again ask folks to introduce themselves? We've got two lawyers here, and I'd sort of like to know who's representing whom.
Sure. Brent, do you want to do that or
I apologize. I thought I stated at the beginning of my presentation, Attorney Robbins
Okay.
represents the applicant.
right? And we see the proposed owner, Mr. Browse. Who else is here for this project?
Rich Holben,
The architect, yes.
correct. And Shannon Boomsman from my office was on. She may have lost her internet connection here, but that's our team.
Elizabeth Goodman, who are you representing?
she's not representing anybody. She might just be watching.
That entertaining, huh?
Yes, this is very entertaining.
Okay. Thank you. Lori, you were going to say something.
I was just going to propose that Brent, if there's any confusion about what the proposal is, would share his screen showing his proposed site improvement plan revised February 24th to show that the pool and the guest house have been removed from the Lake and Pond Overlay District. And in addition, the dock that was proposed for the northerly lot is no longer part of this application. And the house site has been reduced. If there's any discussion about that particular proposal that you would be asked to vote upon.
And
Brent?
what is the square footage of the house within the LPOD?
Brent, why don't you share, go ahead and share the screen and
Sure.
show us the site plan, please.
Happy to. Okay, is that all visible for you?
Yes.
Okay. So the proposed limits of the house and terrace are what you see here in yellow. We've colored the perimeter of the existing house in red. Just for your reference, the orange represents the drain lines. This blue line that is following my cursor is the 150-foot setback. And you'll note again, the guest house and the pool and permeable terrace for the pool are outside of the Lake and Pond Overlay District. And I'll call your attention to where my cursor is now north of the proposed dock to make reference that the floating dock that was proposed has been eliminated for the plan of record. And finally, I will zoom in to the title block. So there's no questions about the plan or the date that we are submitting for your record. You'll note the rain gardens and stormwater management system has remained the same.
Brent, it wasn't clear to me what part of the original building plan has been eliminated.
Yes, so in the southern portion of the property, that was the area where we had originally proposed the pool, the ready rock wall, and a terrace surrounding the pool, and that has been eliminated and relocated to where my cursor is now, outside of the Lake and Pond Overlay District.
But I'm sorry, I meant the footprint of the house, the main house, has been reduced.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Where are the reductions?
We have reduced.
Is
So
it one particular area, or have you just sort of shrink wrap the whole thing?
Well, in general, we took a look at the entire programming from the garage all the way through the the length of the house to reduce space. And actually, if it's helpful, Mr. Holman is here and might be able to speak in greater detail as to what some of those changes were. But ultimately, the house is still in the same general location on the property. We're still maintaining the 78-foot setback to Stockbridge Bowl, but within this general area, we've made reductions along with the elimination of the pool to consolidate that footprint and reduce the habitable space per the town definition by 618 square feet and just over 300 square feet of footprint area between the house, garage, and the living space.
So I don't really need to hear from the architect unless other people do, but what I would like to know is what the square footage of the lot coverage square footage is within the LPOD.
That is correct. That figure is 10.66%, and that is reduced from 13.2%, which was in the original application.
But what is the actual square footage?
Actual square footage within the LPOD, give me 1 second. All right, I have my Excel sheet, has everything broken out, itemized. Let me just get you one total, please. Uh, 5,073 square feet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions of Brent or others connected to this project, this application?
So I would like Brent to describe why this revised application meets the required findings for 6.5.6 in that it complies with all the requirements in the LPOD.
Before he does that, I have a number of questions. I don't know if you want me to ask them or wait till after he finishes.
No, I think, Christine, you should go ahead. But let's ask him, instead of asking 5 at the same time, if you could ask 1 at a time so that whoever has to answer them can remember which ones you've asked, please.
And Christine, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would like, the board is the appropriate place to do the findings, I believe.
Well, yeah, I mean, we either agree with the findings or we don't, no matter who pronounces them, right?
The only thing I would ask is that if the board would be willing to discuss those findings while the public hearing is open, in case we are able to answer any questions that may arise as a part of your deliberation, I think that would be helpful for us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, I hear you. Christine, please go ahead. I didn't mean to limit your questions. I just want you to ask them one by one. Ask as many as you want, but one by one, please.
Okay, we're hearing a lot about the reduction in the size of the house, but I was wondering if you could tell me how many gross feet the house and all of the structural, everything that classifies as a structure is for this proposal.
In the LPOD?
No, because we're looking, one of the determinations is to look at the impact of this home on the, if it's more detrimental to the neighborhood. And I think in doing that, it's helpful to know the size of the home that you are proposing so that we really know what the potential impact is as you're on the bowl and you look up and you see it. So, you know, the gross square footage would be really helpful to have.
But I think that your jurisdiction is just in the LPOD.
Right.
It is, but we also look at we haven't received yet the information from the planning board or from the select board, but I assume that it's out there and we're going to be needing to respond. And so it would be helpful for me to, as I'm trying to visualize this home on the bowl, to have that information. But if you
I think Brent White has a photograph of what the visual will be from the Stockbridge Bowl.
We've seen that. I've seen that, but I'm just trying to figure out the size of the home itself in square footage, because I like to do comparisons in making my determination. And at this point, I'm having a very difficult time, and I don't want to assume something because that is not necessarily the best thing to happen. So just, I would like to have some idea as to the gross footage of what you're proposing. And as you're working on that, maybe I can also move forward with other questions.
Well, I would just like to know on the second sheet of our drawing is an actual itemized table that breaks out all of the different square footages. So that is actually a part of the plan of record. And I would refer you to sheet, pardon me 1 second, please. On sheet 1 of 8 of our overall proposed site improvement plan is the table that identifies all of the square footage, and I believe the information you're looking for is in there. And we've tried to itemize that in a way that is most clear as to the conditioned space of the house as compared to other spaces that we need to count, such as terraces and garages that I think really are inconsistent with the actual size of the house itself. And to your point, one thing I just need to state for the record is we've had the opportunity to review a number of assessors' records as well as compare the special permit site plans that were reviewed as a part of those. And I think it would be a disservice to the applicant to rely upon what an assessment record calls for as it relates to the itemized breakdown that we've provided to be as explicit as possible to show all of the different types of spaces that the proposal calls for. And more importantly, I'd like to just call to your attention as a part of our overall LPOD coverage, 21% of what we've identified as coverage within the LPOD is a permeable terrace. And when we look at our entire lot coverage calculation, 20% of that total is a permeable terrace. So just to ensure that as we're comparing figures and understanding what is it that we're asking for, I'm trying to be very clear that there's no question that we are seeking permission for those permeable terraces when we file for our building permit. However, I think that the figure you should be most concerned with is with respect to the 5,337 square feet, and that is the conditioned space of the proposed home within the Lake and Pond Overlay District. But I believe you had other questions.
Yes, I do. And when we're talking about permeable, let's look at the driveway issues. This lot is going to be served by a common driveway, correct?
Don't even bring that up.
The lot is currently served by a common driveway. That's an existing condition.
And then there is within the LPOD a spur to your property.
That is correct.
Correct. And so at this point, that spur looks like it is very steep.
Going the other way.
And if I am curious if that is how much fill is going to be used for that area, to how that's going to be addressed, the driveway that comes off of the spur.
We've shown on the site plans, we've actually shown a small area where fill will be brought in to maintain the 10% grade, but it's actually very little material that needs to be brought in. And we've shown grading to help accommodate the construction access that we'll have up to the proposed pool and guest house itself. So it's actually a pretty, while deceiving walking on the site, it's actually very little fill that is needed in order to make that the grade that we need for that driveway.
And the driveway you say is going to be gravel, but with over time that becomes impermeable, but you've counted it as permeable in your calculations, correct?
That's actually incorrect. We have noted under the Wetlands Protection Act, gravel is deemed a pervious material. That's the State Wetlands Protection Act. We have shown stormwater calculations for the driveway and the house to store nearly 6 inches of rainfall during a 100-year storm before we've accounted for 1 drop of water being infiltrated into the ground or any potential overflow from our rain gardens to Stockbridge Bowl. So we've have a very robust stormwater management system that accounts for the condition of the driveway surface that has been reviewed and approved twice by the Conservation Commission as the permit granting authority under Wetlands Protection Act, as well as the Stockbridge stormwater regulations.
And you, in your application, the first one, I guess, it's landscape and lighting. Did you put, and there was no, I didn't see a lighting plan here. Did you provide one? And what kind of impact do you anticipate with the lighting on the natural habitat of the bowl?
The final light fixtures have not been selected. I would imagine all exterior would be likely downcast or a short bollard, which is consistent with a residential application. It's certainly consistent with lighting fixtures that we noted certainly on our site visit walking down the common driveway. So I don't think there'll be any impacts. And with regards to the overall site itself, you've mentioned you saw the photo that we've submitted. Frankly, the number of mature trees that we are leaving along the shoreline, as well as the proposed 64 trees that will be planted within the 100-foot buffer zone, do more to address any screening or impacts of light or visual impact from the proposed home.
And the 32 trees that are being removed, are you doing any on your voluntary environmental opportunities to create something that is not mandated just because of the habitat destruction of 32 mature trees?
We felt as a part of our overall, in keeping with the requirements of the Lake and Pond Overlay District, as well as conditions that have been established by the Conservation Commission to not only remove the dead trees that are problematic, we've had a certified arborist confirm the health of those trees, so you don't just have to take my word for it. We felt the replacement of the trees was a requirement of our order conditions and consistent with other orders of conditions we've received for waterfront projects. And we feel based on those trees and the thousands of square feet of rain garden that include shrubs, plugs, and trees within the rain garden itself, the removal of the invasive species within the Lake and Pond Overlay District, the proposed live stakes that will be planted along the bank, which provide even greater shade over the bank than what exists currently, is going to result in a significantly increased and more thriving habitat than the site certainly exists as it is today.
Back to the driveway, how are you planning to deal with snow removal?
We have a number of areas. Actually, the removal of the pool made it much easier to find an area where the snow could easily be plowed off and out of the way. And also in the area where we've created the access for the construction access for the guest house and the pool that will also serve as another area for snow storage. And should we ever have a period where we have such a significant amount of snowfall, it's not uncommon to have some snow removed, but that I think is highly unlikely based on the amount of areas a plow contractor would be able to snow store on site.
And how many cars are you providing for in the driveway itself?
Well, first off, we have a garage to help keep cars under cover, which I think is a preference within the Lake and Pond Overlay District. We've not done a specific parking count like we would for a commercial property where we're evaluating, but we have more than sufficient off-street parking to be able to accommodate the Browse family, their guests, and not have a detrimental impact on the common driveway.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a couple questions, Nancy. So you won't be cutting down the trees where the pool was going to be, right? Because there were a lot of trees that were going to be coming down where the pool was.
That is correct. The area where the pool was going to go is going to remain as it is. We've maintained that construction road, and that will remain a natural surface. So we are not proposing to cut those trees now that we are out of that area.
Cool. So my other question was, when you do cut down a tree, I know this sounds silly, but do you grind out the stump or do you leave the stumps or how do you do that?
Well, what's helpful in this area here is, again, a majority of the trees that are being removed are dead, are actually in the areas where the proposed rain gardens will be planted. So in that case, those will be removed, and we will also be following the guidance that Mr. Ingersoll had noted with respect to the invasive species removal along the bank to ensure that we're not open cutting or leaving anything disturbed on the bank itself. So our submittal of that report identifies that removal work will occur based on the guidance of a certified arborist.
So you won't be taking the roots out of the ground.
Correct. The
From
trees
the
along the
tree.
waterfront, we would cut and leave the stump as it is to preserve the bank.
Okay, that's what I wanted. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Other questions? Questions from the public? I see a butters and other people tuned in. Would anyone else like to ask questions or make comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, Joan and I border the property of the Brouses from the lake, on the south side, from the lake all the way to 183. So we're the sole.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you state your names, please?
Sure, it's Bruce Cohen and Joan Cohen. Pardon me. We live at 84 Interlaken Road, and we're permanent residents. So all I wanted to say is that we're the sole abutter, direct abutter on the south side, all the way from the lake, all the way up to the road. And we are pleased with what the Brouses have done to make some adjustments, and we're fine with what they proposed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to share my screen if you'd like, but we received an email of support from Mr. Kramer, our abutter to the south, who unfortunately couldn't be here this evening. And I saw Mr. Browse had his hand up. I'd let him speak first, please.
I think he was waving to the Cohens.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
do you have something to say, Mr. Browse? Okay, Brent, go ahead and share the screen.
So many tabs open. So give me 1 second, please. I think I have to open that file again.
I think their email was forwarded to members of the board.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was a part of the record. It was
very brief.
Yes, it was. And
but,
just wanted to note that he was in support as
yes.
a direct abutter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments from anybody else? Questions?
I don't have
Marie.
a question. I just have a comment that I appreciate the amount of work that has gone into trying to adjust your lot, your property to what we have been concerned about. And I think you've tried very hard to do the right thing. So I do commend you for, trying to make it so that this works. Nice job.
Okay. Before we, mindful of Brent's earlier comment, before we close the public meeting, which we did arguably prematurely last time, do we want to review the required conditions
Yes.
under 6.3.6 and then under the conditions under the LPOD 6.5.6?
Yes.
Do you want me to read them, or how would the board like to address this? Or
I think you should go through them, Bill, because maybe not everybody feels the same way about this.
okay, and maybe not everybody has their book of bylaws with them. 6.3.6 says that before granting a special permit for any use requiring such permit under the provisions of this bylaw, the special permit granting authority shall find that the proposed use A is in compliance with all provisions and requirements of this bylaw and in harmony with its general intent and purpose. B, is essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare at the proposed location. C, will not be detrimental to adjacent uses or to the established or future character of the neighborhood. D, will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. E, will not overload any public water, drainage, or sewer system or any other municipal facility to such an extent that the proposed use of any existing use in the immediate area or in any other area of the town will be unduly subjected to the hazards affecting public health, safety, or general welfare. That's 6.3.6 findings required. Any
So,
comments, any
yeah,
concerns?
yeah, I'll start. I don't agree that A, B, and C of the findings apply to this project. In terms of a D, I don't believe that there's any traffic congestion or pedestrian safety problem. And then E, public water, drainage. I don't know the impacts. I mean, it's a private well, and obviously a pool is a huge use of water resources. So, but I'm not really qualified to comment on that. So I'll just stick to A, B, and C.
Any other comments about these findings from the board? Jennifer, did you want to say something? I'm sorry. No.
No. All right, Kate, you're saying A, B, and C. Are you saying they do not apply to this project? I'm okay, you're muted, so
Okay.
unmute yourself before you talk to me.
Can you hear me now? In terms of A, I don't believe that the project is in harmony with its general intent and purpose. I don't believe that the project is essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare at the proposed location. And C, I do not believe that it will not be detrimental to adjacent uses or to the established or future character of the neighborhood. The footprint within the LPOD is 5,373 square feet. I appreciate that the applicants have made the footprint somewhat smaller, but it's still huge.
Any other? Oh, Jennifer, go ahead, back.
I would like to say one thing about being detrimental to the neighborhood, because the other day we were looking at the plans for the selectmen, and that's the building inspector. And we looked at several buildings right along Interlaken Road there. And there are some that are like 96 Interlaken Road is well over 6,000 square feet. And there are other ones, 106, which is another, large property. So I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the neighborhood. That's all.
Thank you, Jennifer. I also looked at some of the neighboring properties and I found smaller footprints. So, but this is my.
There are some smaller ones, but there are some bigger ones too. That's all.
Right. And some of those are violations, by the way. And I don't know specifically which ones you're referring to, but some of the older, I know Wayne has expressed his concern that there's some very large, he's made the comment that there are other large properties around the lake. And I will say that the LPOD bylaw was introduced to address general concerns about the changing landscape around the lake when in the late 70s and 80s, some of these very large properties started to go up on the bowl. And that was my understanding of the history of the introduction of the LPOD.
Does anyone else have concerns about these findings?
I do. I agree with Kate on the size of the house. I asked the assessor's office for gross square footage, and the house at 96 does have a gross square footage of 11,000 square feet. It's definitely the biggest, but if you look at the property sheet, it actually has 13 rooms and it only has 4,809 square feet. And I think we're not able to even visualize the size of this home. And I want people to be able to upgrade their homes along the bowl. And I think it's exciting. And I think we voted for a number of upgrades over the time that I have been on this board, because we know that there's benefits to the town and there's benefits to the property when we get new septic systems. But this lot is very unusual in how it was developed as part of a subdivision. And to me, it is detrimental to the neighborhood to have a lot that has been developed to this extent, that is removing trees, that a number of trees. There are issues with the birds. Kate has the window issue. I take the bird cover in the trees. I take an issue with the whole. It didn't feel to me in the review that we have that there was a real focus on being on this unique piece of property that is amazing and is such a privilege to own. And I just am not convinced that this proposal is what is really in keeping with the neighborhood and the values of Stockbridge.
Is there anybody else who has objections or concerns about the findings?
I would like to speak if that's okay. Wayne Slosik here. I
Go ahead.
guess I have a completely different take on it, because I look at how they've explained this project in great detail over a series of meetings that hopefully conclude tonight. They've made the effort to reduce the size of the project based on comments made in past meetings. They've more than accommodated water runoff with their calculations of the 100-year storm. The neighbors do not have a problem with it. And I think they've done their due diligence in proposing a project that, yes, it's large, but it falls within our guidelines. And I think they've done a wonderful job of explaining it. And I just don't think I have an issue with what they're trying to put in that neighborhood. I don't think it's out of place. And I would just say about the glass that continues to be a discussion, that's not code. It's not required. And while it may be wanted, it's not a code requirement for new buildings.
Okay, any other comments about these findings? I'd like to try to move on, and it seems to me we probably have to vote on whether these findings are satisfied. Anybody
I just
disagree?
want to make one comment, Bill. Wayne, I appreciate your comments. Glass does have to do with with, this is a special permit. So it is, it has to do with habitat and it is relevant.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that way. I don't see it as relevant in every case and not in this one.
Okay, can we proceed to a vote on whether to, the required findings have been satisfied? Anybody object to that next step? We know there's a difference of opinion here and we ought to clarify how we want to proceed and get on with it. So I guess I will make a motion, or Gary, go ahead, please.
Oh, no, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, I think if nobody else has anything else to say, then I think we need to move to close the hearing.
Even before we vote on the required findings?
Well, I guess it doesn't really make any difference. We can do that just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, I think it seems to me the logical step is to be clear on the findings and then close the hearing. So I move that we accept the findings under 6.3.6, which I read word for word a few minutes ago. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Jennifer, would you please call the roll? You're muted. Still muted.
There.
There you go.
Now I'm okay. Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Kate,
Nay,
Christine,
Nay.
Okay, thank you. So the findings have been satisfied according to a majority of the
Yeah.
of the board.
yeah, 5-2.
I'm sorry, 5-2, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my place in the zoning bylaws. Do we need to also stipulate to required findings under the LPOD 6.5.6? I think if we're going to do one, we should probably do both.
Sure.
I will read them again, or this one, it's shorter. It helps if you've got your zoning bylaws with you. The planning board shall approve a special permit for any building, structure, or land use activity within the LPOD if it finds that the building, structure, or land use activity meets all application and site plan requirements set forth in 6.3 and subsection 6.5.8 and all applicable land use and development standards set forth in subsection 6.5.9. Please don't ask me to read all those sections. Is there any discussion? I think some of the discussion that preceded this is probably equally applicable to this section of the bylaws, this other set of required findings.
so I think, Bill, I think this just is directing you to the findings we just did. I don't think we need to do this again.
We don't need to do the LPOD required findings?
We're doing it.
Directing you to
You've done it.
the ones
Yeah.
we've done. It's directing you to the ones we've already just done.
Yeah, I know, but it is they are required findings under an LPOD application. So I move that we accept these findings. Is
So
there,
moved.
Gary seconded? Any further discussion? Jennifer, please call the roll.
Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Christine,
Nay.
Kate,
Nay.
5-2. Okay.
Thank you. So now, I think, Gary, to your point, we can move to close the public hearing unless there are any further comments that need to be made by Brent or Lori or anybody else associated with the application. Hearing none. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Jennifer, would you please call the roll?
Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Christine.
Nay,
Okay,
6-1.
5-1 to close. No.
No,
Oh,
6 to
I'm
1,
sorry.
right?
Yeah, 6-1. Excuse
6-1.
me.
Yeah. Okay. So the public meeting is, or public.
Yeah,
hearing
6
is
to
closed.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, Christine, what's your thinking? I'm just interested.
I have so many things. Brent did his spiel tonight. He talked really fast. I'm just trying to put it all together with my notes, and I just have, I'm not comfortable with moving this forward. But I know I'm in the minority. It was just, I needed to feel that it would be better if we had one application. We got paper today, and it's just a very confusing application. And the presentation was thorough, but it was difficult. There, having to try and add up gross and net square footage when you're trying to listen to other things. It was just, to me, I wasn't comfortable. And so thank you for asking, Kate. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Christine. I agree. It was difficult to review. Thank you.
Okay, so we've closed the public hearing. Is there any further discussion before we move to vote to on the application itself, the special permit application? Then can I have a motion to approve this special permit application for 82 Interlaken Road
So moved.
in its revised plan dated February 24th, 2021?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Jennifer, would you call the roll, please?
Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Kate,
Nay, and I would like,
Chris.
Jennifer, I'd like the minutes to reflect my reasons, which have to do with the unknowns around the blasting, the size of the footprint, the 5,000 plus footprint, as well as what for me was a pretty difficult request to review. Yeah, thank you.
Christine.
Nay, for the reasons that Kate gave, for the reasons that we found in the findings, and the issues of the impact, long-term impact on a sensitive area.
Okay.
So the vote was
5-2, it passes. 5-2, it passes.
Thank you all. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Mr.
Well, we
Grouse.
appreciate
Thank
your
you, abutters, lawyers, observers. We're glad to have resolved this.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
very much.
You're welcome. The next item is, and I'm mindful that it's already 8:30, but I hope we can quickly deal with, because of a time issue, the town budget, the planning board submission with regard to the town budget at the last meeting, full meeting, February 16th. We talked about a proposal I think I made to submit to Michael Canales for inclusion in the next fiscal year's budget a similar request to what was on the town warrant this past year, namely $40,000, of which 25 would be for a planner from Berkshire Regional Planning, presumably Phil, and 15,000 in case we need to continue to use Jeff beyond the date of the proposed, well, it's not even proposed, the possible town meeting in May. At least I think it's still not confirmed. We sent around, Jennifer sent around earlier a list of possible topics. Was not meant to exclude anybody else's ideas or comments or questions about any of them. I do want to try to resolve this tonight so that we can submit a budget request and have it included in the budget. If we wait too much longer, I don't know what the deadline is, but it's fast approaching. And so I don't want to put this off for another 2 weeks, if at all possible. I think that just as a matter of general administration, having the availability of a professional planner like Phil and have access to that person for this planning board, which has no professional planners on it, even though we may not be able to delineate a long laundry list of projects that he would work on as we sit here tonight, there's an advantage to having access to that person because we know, I think we all know, that issues will come up, and having a professional planner, in effect on retainer, could be extremely useful. And we get one shot at this as a practical matter. Put it in the budget as the budget's being prepared, or except in an emergency, I think we probably would not get funding in the middle of the year. So there's also the list that was sent around that includes, ADUs, which are currently under discussion, I appreciate, and other topics. Does anybody else want to comment on any of these, or add or subtract or otherwise?
Well, yeah, I have a comment. So at the last meeting, Bill, I had asked you for a breakdown on what we've spent so far for Phil, and I haven't received that yet. I mean, he didn't start until, what was it, October or even November? So,
Phil, do you know? Are you on?
yeah, he's here.
I'm here. Sorry, can you repeat the question, Bill?
The question was, what have we spent on you so far?
Very good question. That's a question for Tom, not myself.
Yeah.
I can touch base with our administrative staff too. They deal with all like the project budgeting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we really should know that.
I don't want to delay it because we don't know it. We know that he's within the budget. If we run out of money now, we're going to run out of money. I do not want this to be delayed for that reason. I don't want to wait 2 weeks to get the figure back of $6,430 and argue about that. I want to vote on this tonight.
Kate, can I respond, Kate, please?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The contract with Berkshire Regional is that Phil is to work, and I don't remember the number, X number of hours. And that worked out in the beginning. It was going to be 1 day a week. And then it has now become more time than that because of the need for him to spend his hours. But I think there would probably, Berkshire Regional is, certainly our partner. So if something happens and we don't get all of the hours that we were allocated for the $25,000, it's my understanding that we will be able to carry those forward. And So what we contracted for was hours, not specific amounts. And that's, I believe, the way the next budget is also being presented.
Thank you, Christine. I guess it's difficult for me to assess this without knowing what we've spent so far.
We're well within the budget for this year. I can tell you that.
Well, that's not very specific, but that's what you have. So I guess that's what it is. And then I guess my other thing is I thought at the last meeting, and I could be wrong, that we talked about going back to the list that we had discussed this summer. So, you know, I had pulled that up and given that some thought. And then the list that we got today, I don't know, was that, Christine, was that your list or?
No.
Oh.
It was not,
Emphatically.
it was not meant, I sent it to Jennifer. It was not meant to be definitive. It wasn't, it was simply a conversation starter. So,
It's your list, Bill?
well, yeah, you can, I plead guilty. If you don't like it, I want to hear what you want on the list.
Okay. I think that, you know, generally an administrative thing, it would be nice if people can look, it's, you know, it's a fine list. You know, it's a great starting point, but I think it would be helpful if, generally speaking, people can sign their names to their work. So as a board, you know, we know where it's coming from.
Well, I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Well, we just got this list. I had no idea.
Well, you mean I should have admitted that it was my work?
Well, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
I'm not ashamed of it.
So sign your name.
If I'd been ashamed of it, I wouldn't have sent it out. Yeah, okay.
Oh, we got, Bill, we didn't get your name. It was just a list. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I understand. And maybe I should have been more clear in saying, here's a list of possible tasks. I'll tell you this, in 2 months' time, whatever list we come up with today will change. I guarantee it.
Well, I think, you know, we should talk, let's go to the list.
Somebody will.
Moving right along.
Something will happen, and whatever list we may generally agree on tonight is and should be flexible.
Yeah, no,
Things will
agree.
come
So
up, and
I pulled up the list that we talked about this summer, and why don't other people, you know, chime in? But I'd like to sort of, if it's okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Can I interrupt you, Kate? I'm sorry, but if we don't refer Phil's bylaws to the Board of Selectmen and schedule the public hearing tonight, we are not going to have those bylaws. I mean, it's right now, we're pushing to get them on the town meeting warrant. And so I have no problems working on this list, but please stay on the line if we, after we finish the list, so we can look at the bylaws that Phil.
You want to do the bylaws now, Christine, and do the list afterwards?
Well, they had I'm not the chairperson, but my concern is that we waited a month from the time we said we were sending these to Donna. We got them back from Donna, I think, Phil, Friday afternoon or something like that. There were some changes that you should have received in the language, but nothing of substance. But what we need to do, if you follow the procedure to get a warrant item on the town meeting warrant, is you have to send, the planning board needs to send it to the Board of Selectmen that look at it, and hopefully will send it back to us. And I believe tonight we can also schedule the public hearing because we have enough information on these 3 bylaws so Jennifer can post that as the public hearing. And so 3 weeks out, we can have the public hearing, but that is now getting it very close to being able to do any amendments and then getting the language into the town meeting warrant. It's too bad we couldn't have done this 2 weeks ago, but we didn't have the information back from Donna.
I didn't get the information, but let's get on it.
Well,
Well,
I'm not the chairperson. I shouldn't be, overruling
well-
the chair, but this is really, this is so time sensitive. I would hate to say, we want another $40,000 and, oh, here's our work. Oh, we didn't do a thing. We didn't get anything to town meeting this year.
I hear you, Christine. I hear you. I hear
Okay.
you. Let's, in the interest of time, since it is 20 to 9 and we've run over our normal stop time, let's do the 3 bylaws. We've all looked at them. We've looked at them more times than we each can count. Phil has done a yeoman's job of recognizing all comments and reasonable comments. And
Well, wait, are there changes since the last meeting when we talked about them?
Phil, do you want to talk?
Yes, so there were changes based on the last meeting. Where we left off was that this group has essentially gotten it as far as we could, and it was time for the drafts to be reviewed by town council. So they were passed off to Donna. Donna sent them back. I incorporated her feedback. And the short of that was that she was very pleased with them. She thought that they were in great shape, and her suggestions were all very minor. So
Can you
I think
send
that
those, can you send those out, Phil? I haven't.
They've been sent out.
they've been sent out.
Oh, I didn't get them.
Well, who else didn't get them?
I got them.
When
I
did
think
you
you're the
send-
only one, Kate. I'm sorry, but everybody else got them.
When did you send it out, Phil?
Unfortunately, this was a last minute thing. So this was early today, early afternoon.
Okay, I'll check my mail now and see if I can find it.
But
I mean, I
think-
can go through the comments. Like
I
I
think
said,
the
it wasn't
operative-
anything of,
No, let's just vote on them.
Yeah, the operative words are extremely minor changes by Donna, who was generally pleased with them. I think it's time we vote on each one of them. And
Well, listen, I just checked my mail. I didn't get them until 5 o'clock. I would like to hear what the changes are, even if they're minor. I think that's reasonable. Look, I got them at 5 o'clock today. You can't expect me to have had a chance to look at them.
does everybody else want to go through all these changes? I'm sorry, Kate, the rest of us are ready to vote. I'm sorry,
Yes.
I'm not trying to be difficult, but it's 20 to 9. If we go through Donna's changes, which have been described by our professional planner as minor, and Donna has said they're good, do we really need to do this when the rest of us have looked at them and they look fine? I just think this is not a time for more delay.
Go ahead, but, I got.
You can vote against them.
I don't want to vote against them, Bill. I'd like to get the material in a timely way.
Abstain, just abstain from voting.
Yeah,
because you
abstain.
haven't seen them.
Can I have a motion to approve? Do we have to do this bylaw by bylaw, or can we approve all 3?
I love them.
I think the motion is to send them to the Board of Selectmen for their review and to advertise for a public hearing.
Okay. Was that a motion, Christine?
Sure.
Sounded like one. Is there a second?
Second.
Marie seconded it. Is there any further discussion? We're talking about all 3 bylaws. Jennifer, please call the roll.
You're muted, Jen.
All right, Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Nay.
Wayne,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Kate.
Nay.
Okay,
That's everybody.
thank you. And thank you, Phil, for your good work. Over a long period of time, you've done great things for us. We appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you.
Okay, back to.
Bill, could I just say, Phil, my nay wasn't directed at you, so. It wasn't directed at anybody, actually, but I just didn't get to look at him.
Phil, nor was mine. I think I should have had those bylaws earlier.
Yeah, no offense taken. I totally understand. I got comments back from Donna late last week and, you know, just been up against it with other deadlines and then lost a day to a storm, unfortunately, with no power. So it's been a strange week.
I hope you have your power-
Ideally, we would have more time, but I mean, again, Donna's comments were very minor, which, you know, speaks to the work that this board has done. If she came back and said, you know, we got an issue here, then this would be a different conversation.
Yeah, no,
But,
that's good. Are her comments reflected in the draft that I got today at 5?
I sent clean copies, but I can send the drafts that she sent to me. So those are the marked up Word versions.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Okay.
Bill did go beyond the call of duty to get them out in the last, since we got the information back from Donna. There
Yeah.
was a glitch. She didn't get the information and it's been a real nightmare to get them to you. So I understand the two of you being unhappy, but thank you for understanding.
I'm not unhappy.
Oh,
I
okay.
just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
All right.
Glad to hear it.
I am not
Okay.
unhappy.
Back to this $40,000 budget item. Kate, I think you were ready to list
Do a list.
some of the issues that were previously talked about I think
Yeah,
sometime last year. Do you
Yeah,
want to do that now?
Do you want me to pull up the screen and share it?
Okay.
Meeting is getting too long for Gary. I know that much. Okay, so if you look here, setting goals for bylaws to be discussed, short-term rentals are underway, driveway parking and signs are done. We had business district and living on the ground floor, residential on the ground floor. Affordable housing trust, that's in the works. Subdivision regulation, condo state requirements, orient downtown to people, not traffic. Historic preservation article. That's what we had this summer.
Yeah, so many of these we did cover, are covered in my list. The Housing Trust Fund is already underway. I don't think we need to include that. It's being done by a Housing Trust Fund working group. Subdivision regulation. If we add these items, apart from the ones that are underway, as Kate said, parking, signs, driveways, and Housing Trust Fund, and short-term rentals, to the ones on my list, the list you got earlier today, is that sufficient to allow us to submit to Michael Canales the requested budget for a professional planner and for Jeff Lacy? Marie, I see you have your hand up.
I have a question. The last item that was on that list about Article 23 or something, what was that about the historic buildings and rewording of the demolition of older buildings? It seems like in the last 2 or 3 years, we've had that as a problem. People wanting to demolish buildings and the historic. Is there some way we can look at that wording on that bylaw and see if we can make it easier to deal with? Could we add that to the list, or is that not something we are?
Sure, we can add it.
It was the demolition of houses that are considered, I don't know, people that don't want to, that aren't able to fix them up, that need to demolish them. I forgot what that was.
I think that's a town bylaw, though.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that part of our thing?
I
or-
don't think it's a zoning bylaw.
So that's not part of, that's what I was wondering, Gary, if that was
It's not-
part of what we can do. No, huh?
It's
'Cause I
not.
Well,
know
I
that
mean,
was
we have a say in it, but it doesn't fall under our,
Okay. I knew it was a
Or
problem
zoning.
we had with wanting to change.
Right, and I really think that you should be contacting the historic.
I mean, I don't know. That was just the thought I had.
Commission before just sort of.
I
write-
don't think it's a bad idea though, Marie. I just think it belongs someplace else, that's all.
Okay.
I think that that really should be handled by the historic preservation
Okay.
itself.
Okay,
How about something about small businesses? That was a big deal in the visioning and in Joel's recommendations about being able to allow for some small businesses in, I don't know, garages or something. Can we,
Where, Murray?
something that we want to do?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part before you
I
said.
said, could we look into, could we think about whether that's something we'd like to
I don't know.
propose?
Can you be
change?
more specific?
And can I just interject something really quick? Kate, could you take that plate down, that thing down, because it's got my private email address on it and I don't want the world to know that.
Oh,
Thank
I'm sorry.
you.
I'm sorry, Nancy.
That's okay. Thank you.
Like, I'm looking at Joel's thing right here, as it says, one of the things he would like is allowing small business use and accessory structures, permitting residents to use outbuildings for economically productive activities. Is that something we'd like to look into and see if that's something we'd like in terms of helping people to be able to use their properties and make money off of it? Is that something we'd like to do?
in the downtown business district or anywhere?
No, I don't think so.
I'm not interested in
Anywhere in
commercial
town.
impacts.
I mean,
in
it looks like it
residential
could be anywhere in town. Enables them to derive income, which in turn makes their living situation more affordable. I think it's anywhere in town, I guess. I mean, I guess we could make it the way we want it.
Yeah,
But
I'm
is
not
that
sure.
something that,
I'm not sure I'm too
we'd like
keen
to
on
look at?
having somebody put
I don't know.
a hair salon and a big
Yeah,
sign
yeah, I
out
mean-
front on Prospect Hill Road.
Well, it could be in town district. You
That's
know,
what I meant. If it's
Yeah.
downtown, that's different,
I mean,
but
we
not
could
everywhere, not
look
everywhere.
at what we wanted, but is that something we want to look at? I guess is my question. we
No,
add it to the
it's
list?
not something that I'm interested in because it doesn't sound like it aligns with smart growth principles. I don't think most residents,
Well, could we
Well,
put
they
it in
want to-
downtown or something? I mean, I don't know.
could I
it was
finish,
something-
please? I don't think that most residents welcome commercial impacts in their backyards or side yards.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, as we talk about being able to live in Stockbridge and afford to live in Stockbridge and use what we have without added growth or any, without changing it. Is that something we'd like to see if we can put in? I don't know, just something I thought about as part of the list, but maybe we don't want to. That's okay.
Marie, we have a huge issue brewing downtown. And I had hoped that we could have it as an emergency on tonight's meeting with changes in use in the business district.
Yes.
And it is really having the potential because of the way our bylaws are now written, that I think I can say without it being on the agenda, that we allow housing, single and two-family housing in the business district, which means that anybody on Main Street can convert their business into a house. And it can happen on Elm Street. And with this economy and the merchants having problems, this could raise its ugly head. And at this point, I think that it should be a priority. I was hoping that it could have been determined to be an emergency so we could try to get a bylaw, because Phil and I are trying to work on that. Because a simple change would address that issue. So it wouldn't have to be too complicated, but I think most people feel that our downtown business district should be for business, however you define it, on the first floors. And then if you have residents above it, but I know it's getting late to discuss it at this point. But I think definitely we need to have a much more robust discussion on our plan of work. And I'm certainly, 3 of the things that are on Bill's list are things that can be changed with, a very, very simple change of numbers in the bylaw amendment. So those are not long-term issues that need to be addressed at all. My concern is that we have, according to the MATC study, based on 2019 statistics, right now Stockbridge has 41% of its residents that qualify as low or very low income. And I think that certainly the ADU bylaw is going to be important in addressing that, but I don't want to see that fall off this list either. And I think, the workforce housing special tax assessment plan is something that it sounded good on the list until you look at it. And that is something that if there is a housing trust fund and there is a developer who comes in and wants to build, and I think it's middle income housing, we could grant him a 5-year TIF or taxes in lieu of funding, which gives them, they won't pay real estate tax. But to me, we've got issues that are much more critical that we should be addressing, like the downtown, like the zoning, like in the overall zoning. And I'm not for sure this list is one that we can really carry forward and stand behind.
Yeah, okay. I just thought you were looking for things to put on a list that might.
Right. And
So, I think we have had some good discussion here. It's getting late, and I think maybe it's late enough that this is not a good time to try to finish up this discussion. And I'm wondering if we can continue it.
No, I want to vote on this tonight. I want to be able,
Yeah.
I want to submit.
The dog.
I'm sorry, that's mine.
Whoever's dog, please mute.
So what are you trying to do?
I
Vote?
want to vote on this tonight, Kate.
Vote on what?
Delay it. We've just come up with a nice laundry list of things we should be considering for a planner going forward.
I don't agree with everything on the list. So if you
It doesn't matter. I don't either. What we want is a list. I just told you in 2 months' time, the list is going to change.
Oh, so this is not, we're not voting on the list, we're voting on a planner.
We're voting on a planner and we are.
Money for a
We
planner.
are.
The
I
budget for,
sent that thing around so that people could focus on whether items on that list or other items that others have brought up could be among the things that a planner would be looking to do going forward.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. We're voting on a planner. We're not voting on the list, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we should disregard the list. I think, you're pulling up that stuff from last year was useful. We should keep that in mind. But I want to be able to submit a proposal to the town for appropriate funding, or we're gonna miss out.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I just wanted to clarify that, and I appreciate your providing a list as a starting point, and that's helpful.
Yeah.
So
thank
Bill,
you.
are we gonna vote, what are we voting on, the budget?
We're voting on the budget.
I make a motion that we voted as presented.
second,
Is there any further discussion? Jennifer, please call the roll.
Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Christine.
Aye.
Okay, that's everybody.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we close our meeting for the night.
Second.
And I need to commend Anita, who is the last woman standing from the public.
And Jamie.
I can't believe.
Oh,
you-
Jamie too.
Where's Jamie? Oh, yes, sorry, Jamie
Jamie's-
too. You get kudos for hanging with us. And Phil, thanks you for joining us. Patrick, you too. There's been a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Wayne seconded it.
Okay, all in favor?
We all did.
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.